Welcome to another exciting episode of Iron Therapy. I am Dave Palumbo, and today we have a very special show. Of course, we're joined by our RXMuscle staff psychotherapist, Lesley Timbol, and Antoine Vaillant, who won his pro show this year and is going to the Olympia, one of the greatest comebacks we've seen in recent times. You've tore 2 biceps, not just one, and you're back on the Olympia stage. First of all, congratulations on the huge win.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's like another comeback. hopefully I stay this time.
I think you almost need, you're like Kai Green, you need motivation to like perform at your best by making some kind of comeback or having a fall and then coming back from that fall to overcome the odds and achieve greatness.
Well, I think so. I think in that's life in general, you've kind of like go up and down a little bit and you just keep going, right? But yeah. Another comeback done.
Well, that's what today's show is really about, Antoine. It's about, overcoming adversity, living an extreme life, learning how to maybe ride the middle road. You've had some, obviously, and you talk about it very openly, some situations where you've had drug addiction, you were on the street, you had no money, you made a comeback to bodybuilding, you cleaned your life up, then you tore that bicep. Obviously, you were using pain meds. You can tell us about it in a minute. You got hooked on them again. It had to be a very, very difficult thing that you've overcome recently. Tell us the whole story. Give us like the Reader's Digest version of it.
So like when I started having a bad drug problem, or?
Well, you had the drug problem. You made that comeback. You cleaned yourself out, right? Were you completely clean when we had that interview and you told me that was it?
When was that?
That was after you made that first comeback. You made it back to the Olympia stage,
Toronto.
Yes.
Oh, so you mean like the 2018 Toronto? Because we did our first interview that was back 2017 or 18.
Yes, you had made the comeback. That's when you were like a rock bottom. You were on the street, for a while.
Yeah. So that was after my 4th rehab.
Right.
But I did a 5th one after that.
Right. Now, how did you fall back again?
What happened is that, okay, so I'll give a little recap. And so I had like over 2 years clean. And then I think what happened is that COVID happened.
Right.
And then because I do 12-step meetings, like NA, Narcotics Anonymous, it's like meetings by addicts, for addicts to help each other out, using a 12-step program, which was built and written by Bill and Bob in the 40s. It was AA only at the time.
Right.
So I was doing that, but then because of COVID, a lot of them closed, and I had to do Zoom meetings, like on Zoom,
right?
Which they have them every day. But I was like, I can't connect as well, whatever. I stopped doing that, and then I started dating somebody who was like drinking, like socially. And then if you stop doing what got you good. I mean, I'm hardwired to like want to do things to make myself feel better and just to have like intense feelings and just to be stimulated, whatever that means. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm like I can have a drink and be fine. Which I had a drink, I was fine, nothing bad happened.
Right.
But that was like, then my 2 years was gone right there, right?
Right.
And then I would still go to the meetings sometimes when they came back because they brought them back. But I felt like I was an imposter because I wouldn't talk as much. I wouldn't share as much. I wouldn't raise my hand when it was like the clean time. I was like, I'll just go there to get the recovery, knowledge, whatever, and just not really participate. So it was kind of weird. And so I didn't go as much and I kind of stopped going. And so I did that. And then I started adding something more. Because it's like, okay, well, if I drank and nothing bad happened, what else can I add?
Oh boy! What was the next thing you added?
What was it like? I think it was like I don't even like weed, but I tried weed, mushrooms. But I mean, the substances are not like the most important thing, because in the program we never really kind of specify what's the drugs, so the message can be like absorbed by more people. That's more so. I'm not gonna get too much in like what was what, but yeah. So I started like gradually adding like some substances, and nothing bad happened. And then what happened is that I started prep for what was that one? Oh, the Cali Pro, but it wasn't the Cali Pro. It was the Boston Pro. It was a bunch of shows that they were all getting canceled back then.
Right. Right. So you got
Remember
depressed?
that? So I just kept dieting. I'm like, fuck, okay, I'll just keep dieting. I dieted for a year straight, pretty much, prep for a year straight. And then as the prep went on, I would use like some prescription meds for like just anxiety near the end, to go to sleep. Because in my head, like, no, it's like, oh, I've drank, I've used some stuff, and nothing bad happened. I could probably like use some other things and just control that. Which I kind of did, but not really. I was like, oh, I feel like I need this. I would take it. That's not as prescribed.
So you were like you were like a functional drug addict basically for a while.
Yeah, kind of. Because what happens, I had a goal in mind.
Right.
So it's like I was obsessed over the show. So I was like, I'll do anything to finish that show. So I went to Cali Pro. It wasn't bad at the Cali Pro, actually. It's more like after that for the Olympia, it was gradually getting worse. So I started using like whatever medication, not as prescribed, but I had a prescription, but I was just doing more.
What, like oxys?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
It was over for anxiety.
Oh, like Xanax type stuff?
I would I would hype myself up during the day, and I would try to put myself down at night. And so I did that. And then when an obsession is like a train, right? So like the end date was the Olympia, and then I was going like a train to the Olympia, and then the Olympia is gone. So with a car, you hit the brake, it stops right there. Obsession, it's like a train, right?
Right.
So the train kept going, and then my brain was still going like that. Plus, I was going through like a bad relationship that was like kind of toxic for me. I mean, it's not like the people, right? Sometimes it's just the relationship itself that was bad. It's not the people. But so I was hurt emotionally, and then when I'm hurt, I'm emotional. When I'm emotional, I don't think right. I can be impulsive. So anyway, one thing led to another, and then I just went off the rails at some point. Right. I got sick. I think it was COVID or whatever. I got sick, and then I got isolated. So I felt like I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, my friends they don't like me anymore. I was starting to do some like sticking, kind of, but not really. More like angry, like being, because I felt like I was being left out and abandoned or whatever. And that's the thing from my childhood. Like it's like whatever, because if you have trauma of like a certain sort, like I had like a fear of abandonment, I had a trauma. My parents got divorced. I felt left out. So whatever will look like that, or even if it doesn't look like that, I will make it look like that in my head and be like, this is what's happening. And because I'm afraid of that, that's going to come to life in my head. So that's how I felt. At some point I just said, because if I for me, if I have zero recovery, if I don't do anything for my recovery, if I'm already dabbling with other stuff, and I'm going to feel emotionally hurt.
Right.
At some point, there's like a meter. You see a meter. And this is like, oh, after this level, this is where I had the case of the fuck it's, and I just go. I was like, fuck it, nothing matters anymore. Not myself, nothing. I just don't think further than like, what can I do to like actually feel good right now? Like, might as well get fucked up. So I just went off the rails. But then as soon as I did, I was like, oh shit, now I gotta stop.
What year was this, Antoine? When was this?
So that was like, okay, so that was April and May 2021.
Okay, so that's a year ago. Okay, a little more than a year
ago.
Yeah,
a year ago. Yeah, so, and this is during that time that I stopped. I mean, I went to rehab.
Oh, yeah. So you checked yourself in voluntarily, or did you have to go because you got so bad?
It's like, so I went off the rails. I let everything loose. And then after 3 days, I tried to stop. And it took me a month and a half to stop. I would literally like, okay, I'm stopping now. Throw everything away in the toilet. Sleep. Wake up the next day. Fuck it. I buy some more. You know what I mean? It's like I was like going back and forth like that. Back and forth. And, so at some point, it's like my friends would know, like, oh, there he goes again, because all my friends back home, it's not the first time they went through this with me.
Right.
So at some point they pretty much kind of like gave me an ultimatum, but I wanted to stop. But at the same time, like my whole body didn't want to stop.
Of course. Did you lose any
But
jobs because of this, or were you still functional?
I was almost, you know, if I kept going, I would have lost everything again.
Right.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
You know, like if I'm supposed to do this and that, and I'm doing everything but that,
Right.
and I'm running away from my friends, and I'm involved with them at the gym and stuff, and all my sponsors and my training. I'm a bodybuilder. That's how I make a living. If I stop being a bodybuilder, I kind of stop making a living.
Sure.
For now, you know, like, so yeah. So I went to my friend's place at some point, and I called a rehab, and I was like, all right, I can go in 2 days, and then she made me like stay in the house, like you're not leaving this place. I'm like, fuck, I thought I could go back home and do the rest. But yeah, right there, then I knew that, oh shit, now it's real. I had to stop, and I had like an inner turmoil there, and I was like kind of fighting a demon. But at some point, I just surrendered, and I was like, kind of like gave up on like, okay, this is it. Like I'm stopping, and I'll do whatever.
Right.
But yeah, but the crazy thing is that when you surrender like that, it's like the obsession kind of stops.
Yep.
So it's like you give up the fight to try to control and do drugs. You know, then this is when you start recovery, and this is where like spirituality gets involved, because it's like what removed the obsession. It's like, so in the program we say it's a higher power. That's everybody's different. Some people, they believe in Jesus. Some people believe in the universe. Some people believe in people who don't believe in God. They use the good orderly direction.
Mm-hmm.
So God, good orderly direction.
Right.
So if you're an atheist and you need to do the program,
right.
Well, what is the most righteous thing to do?
Gotcha.
That's the good orderly direction, right? So, which ultimately is the same thing,
Gotcha.
I think.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so I checked myself in. That was June 1st, last year.
Okay.
And then I did a 30-day rehab, and but as soon as I got in, you know, as soon as I slept a little bit and I got in, I was like in recovery. I was actually I was all there,
right,
and I was able to start recovery. And I only did 30 days because I know how to do the program. Right. I know how to do the things.
You could have taught the program probably by then.
Yeah, well, I got lots of experience in that. But so what the mistakes I did is I stopped doing it, and then I picked up drugs again. And once I do that,
oh shit.
Yeah, once I do I mean, like the reason why I went to rehab is because
okay.
No. After that, that'd be good. So the reason why I went to rehab and I did drugs again is because I stopped doing the program, and I had a weak moment, and then I picked up, and that opened up the floodgates, right. And I was stuck with it. Fuck, now I got to try to stop, right. Which I have to, but I don't want to, but I need to, but I don't want to. It's just like, my heart knows that I shouldn't do it, but the impulses and my brain is hardwired to keep going, because instant reward and feeling good, like, it's like if you do that a good amount of times, you get addicted. Right. So, for example, like, oh, all right, so you feel bad, and then you do something that makes you feel good right away. Do that enough times, everybody gets addicted.
Right.
You know?
Let me ask Lesley a question now, because Lesley, as this psychotherapist here, listening to what Anton's telling you, what's ringing a bell in your head right away, and what comes to mind in terms of like, how could we avoid, or how could Antoine avoid having this happen again every time there's a little setback or COVID or a depressive state? What's your suggestion?
Well, one thing I might suggest to people like Antoine is just saying, to give them some more confidence, because it's almost like they can't trust their ability to be able to do it themselves. So when it comes to feeling good or getting that high, even if it's a natural high, can you get it from something else within you instead of externally? And a lot of people don't know how to do that. Sometimes we get confidence from our accomplishments, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's really hard to have confidence if you don't have anything to show for it, or where you feel that you don't have anything to show for it. So with Antoine, I would say, it's more of finding the root of your fear. And for some people where you were saying a fear of abandonment issues from your past, Antoine, for some other people, whether it's fear of missing out, whether it's fear of not being good enough, however you want to call good enough, there's a lot of fears, and that, you have to get to the root of a lot of causes. If you're going to address any kind of issue, addiction is just one of them, it's important to get to the core root of it, because you can do this surface stuff, but if you don't get to the core about what is causing this fear in the first place and being able to come up with some alternative strategies, then it's easy to what we call have relapses, because then life will throw you a curveball. And how do you deal with the curveball? You got to deal with you have to go to the source. And part of it is, let's say, if part of it was, question whether or not we deserve any successes we have in life.
Right.
Or we kind of downplay any successes. Well, someone else has better legs than I do. So, we can't even celebrate if we have strong legs. Like it's constantly this self-talk also. And I tell people, be careful of the language you use with yourself. So there's a lot of little strategies that can be done. And sometimes it's about, not just avoiding negative self-talk, but if your fear is people are going to judge you, here's the ironic technique: do it anyway. So what I mean by that is don't let things stop you. So you're not stopping from competing. You have a big social media following, Antoine. I'm sure you have your own, everyone has their share of trolls, internet trolls. Does that stop you doing from what you're doing? No, nor should it. But sometimes those trolls get into our heads and we become our own troll, that we're not confident to be able to do stuff or solve stuff on our own. So we have to rely on a substance because we want the instant fix. If you can tie in using the control that you have, and I'm talking about mental control over creating your body into getting the physique you have even today, that's not overnight. It took you a long time. You weren't born this way. I'm not saying you don't have genetic gifts, Antoine, but you weren't born this way. You didn't come out of the womb with all these muscles. You had to work bloody hard. And this is over a long period of time. So it's in you. If we can translate that to other ways, such as coping strategies, that you can't get a quick fix if you want a permanent solution. So there's the fast track. Take a young bodybuilder who's just getting into the competition scene. Too many jump right into the gear right away. How about you try eating properly and training hard first before you even touch the gear? So many people don't learn that sometimes the long way is the best way, because it's going to teach you a lot of skills along the road to get there. So basically what we've conditioned our mind to do with addictions, whatever the addiction might be, is to fast track things. Who doesn't want a fast track thing? Who doesn't want that, easy button or the easier button, that quick fix button? But keep in mind, there's a caveat to that. You have to pay a price. Is that price worth it? And this is what I also help people deal with. Don't wait till things are really dire in your life. Let's put some strategies in place now so you are better prepared. So when life throws you that curveball, you're stronger mentally. You know how to deal with it because you went to the root and dealt with a lot of those fears. And you've developed a lot of skills.
It's really good advice. Really good advice. Antoine, does that resonate with you when you hear her say those things?
Yeah, she said that it's good to deal with things with ourselves, to not rely on the substances. But that's very good for somebody who's like not an addict or not yet one. But once you're a full-fledged addict, as soon as you feel something, your mind will go to an obsession and want to do drugs. Then you don't care about anything else. You care about everything else. Yeah. So I mean, all that is good. But if right now you're struggling from addiction, it doesn't matter about the future. You don't care about the consequences later.
Oh, you just care about the feeling right now, and I agree.
Right now.
Yeah, so I agree.
So what I did is that the only way I could stop is that by seeking outside help, because it's a drug addiction is a thinking problem. So I can't outthink it myself with the brain that gave me that problem. So that's why I need people from the outside, and
is that why
the rehabs, and that's why the program.
Yeah. The program, yeah.
The
Yes, that's
program
what.
and social supports. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
John
And
Lindsay's been in Alcoholics Anonymous for 40 years or more than that maybe now. And he told me that he goes to a meeting every single day and he's afraid that if he misses one meeting, he'll go back to drinking. I said, it's been 40 years. He goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, I still feel like having a drink every single day. And I've heard other people tell me the same thing. If they didn't go to those meetings, they would relapse.
no, the I've seen many people relapse, including myself, and the common denominator into all of them is that they stop going to the meetings.
Yep. Yep.
There's
We
other
need
reasons
the
too.
accountability.
Yeah, there's other reasons too, but the one of the main common factor is that they stop going to the meetings. So they stop doing what got them good.
It's like having a coach that you're not listening to on a diet, and you go start doing your own diet shit because you have warped sense of how to eat properly. The reason you hired the coach is to keep you on track. If you don't send your updates to the coach and have accountability, you're going to cheat on the diet. For most people, you know, they're not that disciplined. I have plenty of clients like that. Same thing, right? So
And sometimes there has to be a lot of tough love, Antoine. And that might mean putting someone into a program and, you know, obviously, you know, like when you said when you're in that full mode of, I just want that fix, and you can't think about you don't think about well, you do think about the past, but you don't think about the future. You think about just right now. You just want to numb that feeling, whatever that feeling is. Mm-hmm. That person may need to be not necessarily locked down, but put into a facility that they can have to get them detoxed.
Yeah, to be honest, for myself, there was a huge relapse I had like before my fourth rehab, and for those 2 months I tried stopping many times. I would literally check myself in the rehab, and I would like escape it the same day. So yeah, it's funny now, but it wasn't done. So you can't. For me, at least, you could have locked me in a fucking place. I would have like punched my way out of there if to do drugs. I was only ready to stop when I was willing myself and to do it for myself, because everybody I see that are all the kids, all my parents, because I did different types of rehabs, like private ones that cost a lot of money, that are fancy, and like the one with the people from the street. And a lot of time, like the rich ones, like the kids, they will go there because their parents are sending them there. But these kids, like, they would try to do drugs in the rehab.
Oh my
God. Oh yeah.
They didn't want to stop, right? The thing is that as an addict, if you want drugs, if there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. It's like I wish I would have the same, because when it was time for me to find drugs, I could be anywhere in the world. Somehow I would find what I want.
It's crazy.
For real, it's like
crazy.
It's crazy because you just gotta go zone in and you have a goal in mind, right?
Do you worry? Again, finish.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, do you worry now? I mean, because it seems like when you're on a high, like especially for bodybuilding, and you're doing well, drugs are not even on your mind. It's when you have that low, maybe COVID or after a show. Do you worry now after the Olympia that you might have those urges to come back because there's going to be some downtime for you, and that you might have that high of the Olympia, and then you're going to come down, you're going to come off these the anabolics, clean out a little bit. Is that going to be difficult for you? And do you have any kind of like anything in mind of how you're going to deal with that?
Actually, I had like my 1 year clean and sober May 28th of this year, right? It's been a year. So, but just before that, between 9 months and a year, I had those 3 months were really, really, really hard for me. I was like, I want to do drugs almost every day. I was thinking about drugs maybe some days every 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I felt like I was doing it. And the thing is, I was like, why do I want to do that? Everything's going well. I have a beautiful girlfriend. Relationship is good. I got the thing at the gym. I'm coming back. I'm like starting prep. Everything is fine. I didn't get it. And then I realized, that with the help of, other people in recovery, that, okay, so since I'm a child, there was like trauma, divorce, problems, this and that happening. And then I had like lots of like things happening with drugs and partying. So there was always some type of like chaos going on. And then my last relationship was a toxic one. So it's like all the chaos was that too. Even if I was clean, I would have chaos still. And then up to the point where I mentioned it at my 9 months, there was nothing happening that was bad anymore. Everything was going well. So I had like chaos withdrawal. So because it's like everything was chaotic or stimulating, and then I stopped, and then I stopped cold turkey all the chaos that was happening in my life. So I was like, what the fuck? So my brain wanted to like create something, want to feel something. It's like, that's not normal. Something's missing. So, and then I thought something was wrong with me. I was like, why do I want to fuck everything up? Like self-sabotage a little bit. So why do I want to fuck everything up? It's just my brain is like been used to a certain thing my whole life for like 34 years. I'm 35 now, I guess. But now it's like, but then when I realized that, I was like, oh, so nothing is wrong with me. So this is like normal. This is like the process. And just because I was aware of it, it kind of like dissipated, like the obsession that got removed like by a higher power before. So after the Olympia, I know what the downtime is. Like I had that downtime before my 1 year, and it was like I was kind of freaking out, but then I worked with it, and now I'm like, you know what? Everything's fine as it is. Because the thing is for me is that I was always seeking something else. Either it was like a problem, or it was stimulation, or it was something. My brain, not myself, I guess, my brain was always seeking something outside of myself to change the way I feel.
Right.
Because sometimes a relationship can be a drug.
Sure.
Listen, like your partner can be the thing that makes you want to feel like something, either angry or, really good. That's why they have the Codependency Anonymous also. They have like programs for codependence. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Do you feel more of an urge to use recreational drugs when you're on or off steroids? Do you notice any difference?
No.
No?
Yeah, but even though like I think during prep, you're so obsessed about the show.
Right.
This is the time you would think the less about it.
Gotcha.
So it is after a show, there is a little moment where you're like, you have to be more careful, I think. Okay. If you're a bodybuilder and you're in recovery, for sure after a show, you gotta. What I do is I do more meetings. Gotcha. And during the between my 9 months and my 1 year, because when I got out of my rehab a year ago, I did one meeting a day for 90 days. It's a thing in the program. Right. And then I did 3 a week. And then I kind of did 1 a week, 2 a week. But as soon as I started feeling really like weird in my head, I went back to 5 a week.
Yeah.
I see.
I ramped up my meeting. Yeah, I ramped up my meetings. So it's like my own prescription to my disease, right, of addiction.
So if there's other people out there, Antoine, who are feeling what you are, and maybe have substance abuse, you really highly recommend the meetings. It seems like those work really well for you.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, you have to go in there open-minded, willing, and really honest for it to work.
Gotcha.
So what I mean by that is you're going to be open-minded to the program. So there's going to be like stuff here and there that you like confused at first, but you need to be really open-minded. Okay, just relax, and I'm open-minded to try anything. And then you're going to be willing to do whatever it takes. As much as I was willing to do whatever it takes to get my drug, now I'm willing to do whatever it takes to stay off.
Gotcha.
You need to have the same willingness on both sides, right? So the willingness and then the honesty. You're going to be honest with yourself, and you're going to be honest with other people in the program to see. You got to say the truth, so you can't lie.
That's the hardest. I think that's the hardest part, being truthful about yourself. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had an example about that wasn't true to myself. For example, like an easy example is that I was like, I didn't plan on using drugs, but I was like, I'm gonna message this person, see how like he or she is doing, But that person was a person from my past and stuff, so I didn't say like, oh, I'm gonna message her to see if I can do drugs. It was like, I'm gonna see how he or she is doing, and then it goes from there. Right. So that's one version of like, I'm lying to myself here.
Right.
What am I doing? What's my real motive? I'm lying to myself.
They have drugs, right? I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's an example like of like how to be honest with yourself. Like you need to look at your motives. Right. Are you really talking to this girl just to say hi, or you want to bang her? Like what's your motive here? So,
Lesley, what's your recommendation? Maybe obviously Antoine really finds solace in those meetings, and that's really keeping him controlled. If anyone else is watching this and feels like they're in an uncontrolled spiral at this point, what do you recommend, Les?
Well, I like the meetings, the accountability, the group. Some people don't like the group, so that's where let's say seeing a therapist will come in handy. Obviously, having solid social supports. One thing I do want to piggyback though, and I want to expand a little bit what Antoine said, because he made a really good point, is the awareness. Because the thing is, when we get caught into these other patterns of behavior, old patterns of behavior, we don't even realize we're doing them because it's just automatic. You know, just that craving, where it's that thought, where you're reaching for something, where they're making a phone call, a text. These are patterns of behavior. And the thing is that in order to break them, we have to be aware what we're doing and why we're doing it. Because then all of a sudden, we just gave ourselves the power of choice. When we go on habit, that's not a choice. We're just doing something without thinking. When you have a choice, you have a moment in time to saying, do I want to do this, yes or no? Giving yourself that, you know, few extra seconds to have the awareness, like I said, is very empowering because you're in control of your life at that moment. And remember, you are not here's the thing. We get caught up that we are our thoughts. If we have a certain thought about wanting to do something, but we are not our thoughts. That's what I want to try to take people to hear, that we are the actions that we turn our thoughts into. And that's where the awareness comes in. But I do like the accountability factor for sure.
Yeah. Well, I have a final question for Antoine, not related to the substance abuse. You qualified for the Olympia. I personally think this is the best I've ever seen you look. I thought you were incredible. I thought that even in the show you came in second, I thought you looked amazing. But you really sealed the deal when you won that show. And a lot of people were very impressed with what you brought, especially given the fact that you've been fighting addiction, you know, over the last couple of years. What's your prediction for the Olympia? Because, I mean, now you're going to go into that Olympia. You legitimately have a shot to really make an impact this year. It seemed like you're in a good place mentally. What can we expect from Antoine Vaillant at the show?
Well, to be honest, like I actually liked, of course, beating Ian would have been great, but I actually liked that he beat me because I look at the scorecard. People say he beat me by 1 point, but I don't think it works like that. But it wasn't a clear-cut, all-out decision. So I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm kind of like, I was close a little bit in my head, right? So that means I'm kind of up there with him on that level, at least that day.
Yep. So
he's seventh in the world. So if you do like bodybuilding math or whatever, in my head, I could like a top 10 is not impossible. So it's like nothing is impossible anyway. Because the thing that I noticed with the pros is that anybody in the top 6 can be switched around depending who's on and who's off, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sure I could crack the top 10, but the thing that this year there's 30 guys.
Right, that's true.
There's going to be like 30 guys. It'll be the deepest Olympia since whatever. It feels like it's a 90-something, 1990 champions. It's like 30 guys. Remember back in the day?
Yeah, that's a lot.
So,
it's late this year, the Olympia.
I know, but to be honest, I'm just going to focus on what I can do myself. But if I'm top 10, that's better than like, whatever, I was like 15, I don't know, 14th place last time, which is still right. You know, like if you look at the big picture, it's the best in the world, right? But I think I can like cramp up a few places in there because I'm going to bring the same conditioning. And I think because I've been consistent, because when you think about it, a year ago, I had like a torn bicep.
Right.
And I came out of rehab with a fucking sting like that. I was, all right, start over.
Yeah.
You know, and then I ended up qualifying within a year. So just the fact that I'm consistent, I'm actually getting, you know, reaching more of my, closer to my full potential eventually, you know, God willing. But top 10 is a good prediction, but who knows what's going to happen. You can't even predict tomorrow, really.
That's true.
When you think about it.
Well, thank you for coming on and being so honest and forthright and opening up to our audience. And hopefully that will help a lot of other people out there who are facing and battling the same demons. And Lesley, of course, thanks for your brilliant insights and coping techniques that you and actually insight into what Antoine talked about. I thought it was very insightful what your analysis was. And you know,
thanks, Antoine,
final words of advice, Antoine, to anyone out there who might be suffering. What could you say? Give people some kind of an inspirational. Leave us off with something that they can wrap their hands
I wanted to actually say something like to really, if you make it through this way through the podcast because you're interested, obviously, and maybe you know someone or yourself is going through something, but the main thing that's important is that I couldn't do it, but we did it. So I can't do it. We can. So I alone, for me, it was impossible to do it for myself. I was powerless over my own decision-making, powerless over my drug addiction, and I had to get outside help to get better. And to do that, I had to denounce myself and be like, yes, I have a problem. So first of all, admit you have a problem, and then you reach out for help. whatever it is, the meetings, the rehab, the therapist, start with something. There's better than nothing, right? Stop suffering. You don't have to suffer alone anymore. And that's why I love the meetings so much. I'm never alone anymore. I go there, there's people just like me who are doing it.
Right.
So the main thing is that if you're suffering alone, admit that you have a problem, go out, seek help, whatever that is. And for me, the only thing that was really stopping me, because I was crazy, was going to rehab. So I did that a bunch of times, and that worked for me. And the thing is, even if I failed and I relapsed, I would go back to the rehab. There was a rehab I went, like I did, was it 2 months? Came out, I failed after a month. I went back and said, I want to stay 6 months now.
Wow.
I just kept coming back.
You were in rehab for 6 months, Antoine, at one point?
Great. 24/7.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'm also extreme, you know. Yeah. So I went the other way. But yeah, so if you fail, if you relapse, feel the emotions, feel the guilt, feel the shame, but don't dwell on it. Then try again. Then you fail again, you try again. You just keep trying. Hopefully, you end up standing tall, and then whatever you learn from all your mistakes, you apply it every day.
Yeah.
Because it's every day that I do this. It's not just like, oh, I did it now, it's good.
Right.
Because if you think you're good, and this is what happened last time, it got me back. So it's an everyday thing. But just to resume again, if you're suffering right now, you don't have to suffer alone. Admit to yourself you have a problem. Go seek help, and then start the recovery. And it's like training. Don't stop doing it.
No, very good. Very, very, very wise advice. Awesome. And I hope people out there who are listening who might feel like they're in the same boat as Antoine take his advice, because I think it's very good. Lesley, final words?
Listen and follow to Antoine. He's a great inspiration. If you want to follow me on YouTube, absolutely. I'm happy to do other podcasts on this. And by the way, if you guys have suggestions for future topics and speakers, let us know in the comments below.
And you guys train at the same gym, is that true?
Yeah. Yes, you all do.
We do.
That's funny.
Hi.
Who would have thought? Anyway, Lesley's always there for you. If you have a mental breakdown in the gym and you see Lesley, you can always say, Lesley, I need a session real quick in the back room. Antoine, best of luck at the Olympia, man. We're all rooting for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
That's going to take us to the end of this episode of Iron Therapy. I'm Dave Palumbo with Lesley Timbol and Antoine Vaillant. We'll see you next time.